Wonderful.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the work session of Las Cruces City Council. Today is Monday, June 26, 2023. It's approximately 1 p.m. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I believe Amy DeFelix is on Zoom for our Pets of the Week.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome, thank you. I'll share my screen. Here we go. Hello everyone, my name is Amy DeFelix. I am one of the Adoption and Rescue Coordinators for the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley, and every week I share the Pets of the Week. So let's start off with our Cat of the Week. For this week, we have Othello. His number is 62155, and he says, "Spend some time with me and you're sure to want to take me home. I'm a swamp charmer who knows how to schmooze my way into any lap. I just want to spend my days living the high life and getting loved on by my family. Don't you have room in your home for a handsome and dapper kitty like me?" And then we also have our Dog of the Week. Let me remove my video so you can see the text a little better. Let me see. There we go. And he says, oh, his number is 52654, and he says, Luna, and she says, "I'm a gorgeous girl with beautifully unique eyes and a wonderful personality. I always get excited to go out on walks with humans, and I love getting pets and attention from them too. I'm just a happy-go-lucky girl who can't wait to find the people or person who will cherish and love me forever." And regarding adoption events, we do have one this Saturday, July 1st, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at Lucky Dog Billiards. It is actually going to be our Red, White, and Cute kickoff that we're celebrating. The Red, White, and Cute adoption event is going to be all July long. It'll be $50 adoptions, which will be also honored at Lucky Dog Billiards. They will also have some Lucky Dog shirts for purchase, and you can get your adoptions at $25 instead of $50 with the purchase of a shirt. You can also get a tie-dye shirt for $25, and with every shirt purchase, $2 of that will go right back to the ASCMV. So I hope to see you all out there and have some fun and maybe find your next forever friend and take them home as well. But now, definitely being about a week ahead of the 4th of July, I feel like it's appropriate to share some information about pet safety in general. So I got these bullet points from suggestions made by both the AVMA, the American Veterinary Medical Association, and the ASPCA, the American Society of the Prevention of Cruelty for Animals, I believe. And you can visit their websites to read more in depth about these bullet points and the others that didn't quite fit in these little slides. But I can start off with definitely the most important thing you can do prior to the 4th of July or any major holiday where fireworks and commotion is involved is to prepare in advance. So definitely make sure the microchip information is up to date and ID tags have correct contact information. This is a very important first step, and the follow-up and making sure everything's up to date is also super crucial, especially here at the ASCMV. We get a lot of stray dogs and cats immediately following the 4th of July, and there are a certain percentage, I don't have any numbers off the top of my head, but we've seen every year some animals that even may be microchipped or have ID tags. The information provided on either one is not up to date, so we really have no way to kind of contact the owner, and it kind of delays the reclaim process, which is something we're trying to avoid entirely. You can also keep your pet safe by keeping them indoors in a safe, escape-proof room or crate, especially during parties and or fireworks. I know some people will have like nice roomy crates to have them hang out in the evening, especially during fireworks. Make sure that the, I guess, windows in the room are like impact proof, or they're not left open to where like the mesh like lining for a window can be like bursted through. Just make sure it's all safe and secure. Just prevents your animal from basically breaking out and escaping. And if your pets are outdoors during the day, we definitely recommend providing plenty of shade and accessible drinking water as often as possible. Especially we're going through a heat wave, so, and I feel like it's also going to go over into like the 4th of July holiday weekend, so definitely provide shade, water, keep them cool. Don't keep them out any longer than they necessarily have to be, and definitely be aware of signs of overheating. If you're not sure what those are, you can always look it up. There are a bunch of resources online to kind of help you monitor signs of your pet's overheating or even heat stroke, so you can address it and kind of correct action before it becomes a serious issue. And there are some others, as in we would suggest reconsidering feeding your pet table scraps, things like onions, chocolates, avocados, grapes, and raisins. Those are all known to be toxic to dogs and cats in certain amounts. Even small bones like chicken wings can be a choking or digestion hazard. Fatty foods like chicken wings and french fries, fried food, fatty stuff like that can also cause indigestion. And no pet owner wants to deal with the fallout that happens after indigestion, or even pancreatitis, which is kind of just a bother to deal with. It's a lot, and you have to take them to the vet. It can be expensive, so to just kind of nip that all in the bud, just avoid feeding table scraps, feed them the regular food, they'll be okay. Definitely keep glow sticks and glow jewelry away from pets. Don't have them wear them. Don't have them within, I guess, accessibility of your pet, because those can also cause GI irritation. Like the liquid inside the glow stick can irritate their intestinal lining or their stomach lining, the GI tract, and even the plastic can cause potential blockages, and that sometimes needs surgery to fix. It can be expensive, it's dangerous, so just avoid that entirely. And also, we recommend not applying sunscreen or insect repellent that isn't specifically labeled for animal use. That can also cause GI or neurological problems. I know dogs and cats, I don't see this being super relevant to cats, but just in case, they like lick their paws, they lick themselves, and they'll end up consuming these products, especially like insect repellent that will have like DEET in it. I know that's something that like in general, people are trying to stay away from, but ingestion of that can cause neurological problems, and that's super not fun, especially on a holiday. And so just keep all of these things in mind to keep your pet safe for the holiday, and make sure everything, like your information's up to date, and just make sure that they're as safe and secure as possible, and as comfortable as possible 4th of July, because I know that can be a very rough holiday for the pets in our area. But thank you.
Thank you, Amy. We appreciate it. Okay, next is going to be our Jobs of the Week, and Giselle Palomares will be making that announcement. Oh, you're on Zoom as well, okay. Usually you're...
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. For the jobs of this week, I have... City of Las Cruces is hiring for an adult basic education instructor, and that pays $25 an hour. White Sands Missile Range is hiring a recreation aid trainee lifeguard, and that pays $15 an hour, and that closes on December 29, 2023. And Genesis is hiring a data entry clerk, and that pays anywhere between $24,000 to $30,000 depending on experience. And that position closes on September 12, 2023. We have Motel 6 hiring a motel maintenance and repair worker that pays $12 to $19 an hour depending on experience, and that closes July 14th of 2023. We have Amber Care Corporation, and they're hiring a home care aide in Las Cruces, and that pays $12 to $13.50 an hour depending on experience, and that closes on August 31st, 2023. Doñana County is hiring a veterinarian, and that pays anywhere between $26 an hour to $53 an hour depending on experience, and that closes on July 16, 2023. And as always, to connect with the New Mexico Workforce Connection Office, you can always contact them via telephone at 575-524-6250, or visit them in person at 226 South Alameda Boulevard, or you may also follow, like, and subscribe to our social media and download our app. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Giselle. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and get with our work session. We have 3 items. First one being 3.1, the Alliance for Regional Military Support, or otherwise known as ARMS, a quarterly update. And Mr. Richard Dayub will be making that presentation.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, members of council.
So you do know, you do know that one of our own former city councilors, now congressman, is on the House Arms Committee?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I actually mentioned this briefly during our conversation. We have not had the opportunity to meet our two new assistant city managers, but hopefully, maybe not today, but on another day, we could come up here specifically to meet you all and have a conversation with you. But as a result of the fact that we have a few new folks to work with, we kind of modified our presentation slightly today to be fewer slides and a little more interactive in conversation. And with me, people think he's my bodyguard or my good-looking son, but he's neither. This is Kevin Cardosa, and Kevin used to work with me at the Chamber in El Paso years ago. He's a Las Cruces, and he's up here. He works with us with the Arms Committee as well. And so we thought we'd tandem on this today with you, and as soon as somebody gets the presentation up, we'll go ahead and get started. City Manager, how are you, sir? Good. Do we control this, or does someone else do it?
You should be able to. While Christine's going over there, so Ikani and Sonia, years ago, when they had what they call the BRAC-based realignment and consolidation, at one time they were discussing White Sands Missile Range, Fort Bliss, Holloman as a possible closure, and that would devastate our communities. And so we were fortunate that that didn't happen. And just to make sure that that doesn't happen, it turns out El Paso had been using this organization for a while to make sure that those in the Pentagon knew how important our military bases are. And so we were fortunate to kind of piggyback off of that, and that's kind of how this has come to play. And it's been great, and I know that this is something here that I would hope the future city councils consider keeping on, because like I said, our military bases not only help protect our country with White Sands being strategically located, but also the jobs that they provide as well. So,
Mr. Mayor, thank you. That's actually, we should hire you to help us because you're a great salesman for us. So
I will be looking for a job after.
I'm just kidding. I couldn't afford you. We're a nonprofit and none of us get paid, so I just want to be clear on that. But actually, to your point, if I could piggyback on that briefly, so the 2005 base realignment and closure process is what the mayor was referring to. I was at the chamber at the time. Gus Rodriguez, who's one of our partners in this, we had a team working on this, and we actually hired Cypress International, who is a consulting firm in Washington, who helped us to navigate through the Pentagon, helped us to identify what our weaknesses were, very important, and also what our strengths were then and are now, to help us convince the BRAC Commission that Fort Bliss and White Sands in particular, along with Holloman, had a great value asset for them that they should look at more closely. Many of them, surprisingly, in uniform, had never been to Fort Bliss or White Sands, had no idea what we were, what we did, until we educated them about it. And one of the big selling points for us was the fact that the three installations work so closely together, and that we are much, much larger than the National Training Center that the Army has in Barstow, California. And in fact, most of the really significant training and testing goes on at White Sands, not so much at Barstow at the National Training Center. That coupled with the fact that we disabused them of the belief that we had no water because we were in the desert. We had the aquifers, we have the desalination plant, which was just coming online, which is a partnership between the Army and the El Paso Water Utilities. That was really critical. And then all of our infrastructure, our roadways, and our ability for soldiers, airmen, and their families to get back and forth across the installations to and from their homes without a lot of gridlock. Those were some of the big selling points for us. So fast forward then, years later, we formed this committee called ARMS, which was actually a committee at the chamber back in those days, and was so successful, then we decided to branch out and begin to work with the Cypress folks again. And it's important to note, they're not able to contract directly, but their company policy is they do not partner directly with any municipalities. So they can't work with the city of El Paso directly, or the city of Las Cruces, or the city of Alamogordo. And so that's where we kind of fill in that gap. And what we try to do, and again, we can go through these slides one at a time, and talk about some of the things that have been done. But I think it's important really to touch on this as the centerpiece of our conversation, because the work that has to be done in each community requires connectivity between the communities, and in this case, the Pentagon, or the mayor mentioned our congressman now. That's important as well, obviously, to have that congressional connection. And it's been very helpful to us. And I'll touch on that in a moment. But beyond that, it's who do you talk to when you go to the Pentagon? How do you get in the Pentagon? And who do you meet with? And once you get that meeting, what is it you're going to be talking about? What is it you're asking for? What are the priorities for the community? And so that is background. Let me go ahead and just touch on some of these. And as I mentioned in the notes, Mayor Pro Tem Gonda was with us in DC. It was her first, we'll call it a baptism, maybe a baptism by fire, because it was so intense. There's so much going on. It's a great experience. But now, hopefully this year, if someone is going with us again in the fall, I spoke with Jonathan Macias at the county the other day, and we had that same conversation. It was a great first experience, but now how do we fine-tune it? How do we refine our efforts so that we're actually meeting specifically on certain projects with a goal in mind? And we've been talking with Elizabeth Teeters as well about this at the city. So going back through these slides very briefly, our delegation that went to DC, I mentioned the attendance that we went on there. But as a result of some of those meetings, we now have some military construction projects that are working with White Sands, with the satellite fire station, the Las Cruces substation, and the missile assembly building planning and design. Following that, some of these recent accomplishments, and I have a typo which Kevin pointed out to me. in the middle bullet point, that's supposed to be MedCom with NMSU, not UNM. Just sorry about that error. I know how competitive we are between Albuquerque and Las Cruces. But working with the school districts, committed to having 4 scholarship opportunities in 23 with the Cadet Command Program and the Army Scholarship Opportunities. Coordinating a meeting, which we did have with Colonel Venable, who up until just 10 days ago was the commander at William Beaumont. He got promoted. That's what happens with talented people, and he is now in San Antonio. I met his replacement, Colonel Lee Freeman, who has already been briefed by Colonel Venable, and we're getting ready to schedule a series of meetings with him so we can try to keep up the pace in these relationships and stay on point with the priorities that have been set and discussed through, whether it's an issue of mental health or just overall health care. We've had one meeting with the new director of the Defense Health Agency. Unfortunately, her visit was so brief, we couldn't bring all of our community partners together. In fact, even in El Paso, when she was there, she was able to only meet with one individual at Texas Tech for briefly an hour. So we're trying to get her back on schedule this year so we can have a combined meeting of all of the communities, because the Defense Health Agency now is the parent, if you will, parent company overseeing all of the surgeons general for each of the branches of the military. And so we have a lot of issues to deal with, and we have a lot of concerns as well. How will, as an example, the Defense Health Agency's new leadership affect the services being provided by Beaumont to both Las Cruces and in some cases even Alamogordo? And we need to get those questions answered, and we're looking for ways to partner with them so that we can have a relationship where we're sharing services, physicians, surgeons, et cetera, between our communities, both inside and outside the fence line. So that's a critical aspect of our work together with them. We've worked with the Land Commission over encroachment issues, and so far those seem to be going well, whereas some of the work that's being done, we think they've made semi-commitments that they will not cause encroachment issues that will affect the training ranges and the testing areas as well, because of all the frequencies that are involved. When we were in DC, we had meetings with GM Defense over EV, and I spent a good deal of time talking with Jonathan Macias last week about this, because what has to happen, and I'll go into this in greater detail. I didn't run out of time, did I? Oh, good.
No.
Okay. Because we've got a few more things to cover for you today. And I want to emphasize something. The last 2 times that we were scheduled to make presentations by request of the city, they were presented to you in written form. Your schedules are so full that it was determined you couldn't spare the time to have us present. So all the more important why we're here today, to have an interaction. So please chime in at any point and ask questions, challenge us, make suggestions to us, because this relationship is so important. All of the relationships we have with our various community partners are essential to the success and future of our region. And so I just wanted to thank you again for giving us the opportunity to present to you in person. But as we speak about these things, connecting you with, as an example, GM Defense, that's part of our job. But part of the community's job is to take that ball and run with it. And I shared that same conversation with Jonathan last week, because we are a nonprofit and none of us get paid. We all work pro bono. Even our travel expenses to DC come out of our pockets. We own only 5 people, with Kevin representing San Las Cruces, and then Gus, John, Lance, and myself. There's just so much we can do because we also run our own businesses. So it's so important, God bless you. It's so important that the communities identify individuals within their organizations, say these are the people that are going to carry the ball. Whether that's Andy Hume at the airport trying to get what they refer to as ICSAs, intergovernmental services agreements with White Sands, or if it's going to meet with GM Defense or with Raytheon or with Lockheed Martin. Once we make those introductions, it's really the responsibility of the community and their individuals identified as the points of contact to meet with those companies and follow up to see what they need, what you can provide, and how can we make these contracts happen. Particularly these days now, I keep mentioning GM Electric and GM Defense because there's a lot of interest, as you know, and frankly, although El Paso's waking up to it now, Las Cruces has been kind of ahead of the game in terms of their focused areas on electrification. But there's so much more that goes with that, right? How do we support electrification? How do we ensure once we install these facilities that the provider of the electric grid are capable of delivering it even when it's 109 degrees outside, right? Those kinds of things. So while I'm on that subject, and I've spoken to Elizabeth briefly about this, I think it's important and happy to come back up and have a special meeting with you as the assistant city managers along with Mr. Peely to talk about who or which individuals in the organization should be the point person or point persons in these initiatives. We have monthly Zoom calls with all of our partners. They're the third Thursday of the month at 7:30 in the morning. And it's important that Las Cruces, the city, be on those calls. Jonathan is almost always on those calls representing Doña County. But it's important, whoever those people are or persons are, that you assign that they be on board with us for those calls and that we communicate intermittently in between. So you call us, you tell it, or you email to us to say, hey, this is where we're focused on these areas. We need your help and your guidance. We meet with Elizabeth offline. We usually have either a Teams or Zoom call with her and her staff to talk these things through and identify where their goals are, what they want to do, and particularly as we prepare for October in Washington again, why are we going? So if the city of El Paso is going, what are your goals? If the El Paso County, if the Doña Ana County folks are going, if the city of Las Cruces are going, we actually had, as part of the conversation last week, a message out to everyone, so I'll convey this to you now. Over the next 3 weeks, we want to have an in-person meeting with both General Little of White Sands and General Eisenhower of Fort Bliss to hear from them what their focus areas are, where they'd like us to pay attention from their perspective, and just as importantly, what is it we want from the installations as a community? What do we need to be working on to help us grow the economy, recruit more companies, add jobs if they're already here, and then when we get to DC, really focus on the issues of importance to both our communities inside and outside the fence lines. So when we're there, the meetings that we're having are relevant and they're valuable, and hopefully they reap some rewards back to us. And we'll be getting word out to you all to identify who those people should be to join us in those meetings, because it's just so important. So we're well prepared. Upcoming activities, we talk about Project Convergence. So I understand now that the Project Convergence is upcoming, will likely not be October, but more like January, February here for White Sands. And we'll be in touch with you as we get more information to talk about that. And then organizing our communities to partner together. I mentioned this third bullet on this part of the screen regarding the potential partners. In the last call we had, Mavita was on board with the call as well, but we want all of the community partners, Las Cruces Chamber included, to everyone to be sharing their thoughts, because That's really where the value proposition comes out of bringing all those brains together to say, well, have you thought about this? Or what about this? Or we want to go in a different direction. But most importantly, to make sure that we're all reading from the same sheet of music when we go to meet with, whether it's Army leadership or defense contractors. So when we're in those meetings, the people that are in those meetings, first of all, have to be the relevant individuals key to the community. It's not about bringing together as many people as we can. It's about bringing together only the right people that need to be there with us, who can speak intelligently on those subjects. They're the subject matter experts. I won't read through all of those, but these are some of the things that we're preparing for to do in 2023 that we hope will help the community of Las Cruces as well. Way forward, staying engaged with, certainly with Army Futures Command and then their counterparts at Air Force Works, trying to make sure that we're keeping informed from our end as to what they're doing and what their needs are, and for us to share with them what it is we want from them and how can they help us. You know who the points of contact are, but the last slide I put on there includes that. But in addition to that, there's some points that both Kevin and I would like to bring to your attention.
Yeah, Kevin Cardoza. So as Richard mentioned earlier, there's a lot of significance in some of the points that he brought up. For instance, in securing approximately $1 million worth of scholarships for minority kids who want to serve the military. That's a big deal, especially for a community that we are quite diverse. So it brings a very good opportunity for those kids that want to serve and want to go to college. The Department of the Army has made about $1 million available for scholarships. The other point that I wanted to touch on is that the partnership and the relationship with the land commissioner is very critical because it helps keep the ability for White Sands to continue doing their testing and some of their training exercises, because a lot of the folks that come in and do the testing are the defense contractors. A lot of those defense contractors, they come to the community, they stay in our hotels, they eat in our restaurants. So, and trying to maintain that economic flow in and out of our community, that's very critical. And keeping that relationship with the land commissioner it helps us secure if you will, that cash flow continues for years to come. And the third point that I wanted to touch on is that we are tracking approximately a little over $24.9 million that has been appropriated for White Sands Missile Range, in addition to their operating budgets that will go to different projects in the installation. So what does that mean? Well, that means local employment, and it provides the ability to maintain and perhaps increase the amount of jobs that come out of White Sands. Granted, they're all construction positions, but one of the advantages is that when a contractor gets a job and within the installation, it tends to pay quite a bit more than any other civilian construction job, if you will. So those are things that are very important to our community, because it continues to further enhance the economic development, the tax base, and it keeps the White Sands in the forefront for a lot of these defense issues. We'll keep working with the White Sands leadership to make sure that those issues are addressed, and thankfully we have a good friend within our Congressman Vasquez that's very knowledgeable about the community, and his staff. They understand a lot of these issues, so trying to make that transition from different members of Congress to now, they made it almost they made it so easy, and they're so easy to work with, and because of that, it will help us make sure that some of these funding issues don't get removed as Congress goes into conference and they begin to discuss the different budgetary issues. So we'll keep working with them, and hopefully at the end of the day we'll come out as winners, and that's something that as ARMS, that's what we keep tabs on, and we always try to stay at the forefront of those issues.
If If I could just add to that last point. So I mentioned it briefly early in my presentation. Last Friday morning, we had a joint Teams call with Congressman Vasquez, military legislative assistant, and Congressman Escobar's MLA as well, with arms, preparing for the trip to DC in October. So we're lining up our initiatives, and they're giving us some guidance from inside, the halls of Congress as to where we need to stay focused on, where they need our help in terms of advocacy when we get there, when we meet with these individuals, to have the right messages to deliver to them so that we're all on point. In our call last Thursday morning for arms, Jonathan Macias actually raised a question, why is it that we have any meetings with the folks in Oklahoma who are also Republicans? And my response to him was, because Fort Sill, Oklahoma and White Sands Missile Range are interconnected and reliant on one another extremely, and Fort Bliss. And so what Gus Rodriguez did in his role as the civilian aide of the Secretary of the Army was to coordinate that meeting we had, and we'll have one again this fall, where the military legislative folks and their chiefs of staff for those senators and congressmen in Oklahoma are meeting with us. And because the electeds themselves are not in the room, I know this is a recorded session, but I'm going to say this anyway, there's a little less tension because the staffers work well together and recognize how important it is that we, if I can use the phrase, cross-pollinate in order to benefit both areas. Together we're stronger than we are if we just go in there fighting for what we want for our area and not be concerned about your area and vice versa. And it seems to be helping a lot. So I wanted to point that out to you as well. I'd like to touch on a couple of other things. This actually came from a conversation I had last week with Elizabeth Teeters. So my curiosity got piqued after we got off the call, and I reached out to Eric Sanchez at MSU in the physical science lab. And what I learned, because we had been meeting with Eric about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, talking about the challenges at White Sands, because, and you've heard this story before, but if this were to happen magically today, roughly 50% of all of the senior civilian employees with all the talent that's at White Sands are eligible to retire. If they were to retire tomorrow, we would be in a real spot. And so we communicated that with Eric. Of course, he was a former commander out there, so he knew about this issue and its growing challenges. I had to actually make a note of this because some of this was semi-new to me, but what I found out from them is Dr. Marcella Shelby is heading up this program within the PSL, and it's called Classified Ready Employee Workforce. CREW is the acronym that they use for it, and it's taken off tremendously. And what that's doing is it's enabling them, for individuals at NMSU who want to pursue a career in engineering and sciences, anything that would relate, to defense contracting, whether it's the civilian side or the military, they help them to get their initial clearances, their classified clearances. So they're not at the very top, but they at least get enough of a clearance so that when they graduate, they can go immediately to work with a defense contractor or at White Sands in uniform. Because the problem has been, if you're graduating as an engineer and you really want to work in the defense community at White Sands, but you can't afford, after graduating, to wait 18 months or longer to get a security clearance, they take these jobs with Lockheed Martin and go to work in Fort Worth, or Raytheon and go to work in other places. So this is now helping. It's not a complete cure, but it's certainly helping to mitigate the impact and the losses of these positions. So those young folks who do want to stay here actually have an option to stay. So our next step now is to grow their presence with Lockheed, to grow the presence with Raytheon here, so that those jobs, those really high-paying jobs, are then available to them so they can stay in Las Cruces. So I just wanted to touch on that point to you as well. I mentioned our meeting with the congressman's staff, so I think with that, I can stop as my voice is going away, and the two of us can answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Richard. Before I get to Councilor Flores, I just want to also interject something. As I was mentioning, I was talking with Congressman Vasquez the other day, and I know he's going to be working on this. But there's an opportunity to possibly have a facility, an extension of the New Mexico State University's College of Engineering for those that graduate and want to move to grad school, to be located there at White Sands Missile Range, across the street from where they're working on research, and it would count towards their college credits, and they would slide right in there with as a GS9. So that's pretty good. And so I think he's fortunate that he's got Socorro, I think, is in his district, and the South Valley of Albuquerque. So I think he's going to try to have a program basically for the three major universities, New Mexico State, New Mexico Mining and Tech, and UNM, to come up with ways to keep those engineers here working at their respective cities, whether it's Socorro, I don't know. I don't think that one can go either or to the labs, or New Mexico to White Sands, but UNM, of course, with the Sandia and Los Alamos. So I just wanted to point that out. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to probably just give the members of the LFC committee just a little bit because that would be a true partnership with the federal government if the congressman is successful to get some money, and then the state legislators, and that would really solve a lot of the engineers who want to move away, and they can have jobs here in their own communities. So
thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I'll reach out to his MLA to just ask a little bit more about it and see if there's anything we can do at arms to assist them in any way.
Okay, Councilor Flores.
Congressperson?
Congresswoman Flores.
Perish the thought. Thank you, Ms. Dayub, and thank you for your presentation. So have you been working with the Borderplex or Mavita?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that you spoke with Elizabeth Teeters.
Yes, ma'am.
It'd be great if you could come to our committee, our Economic Development Policy Review Committee, and yeah.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, great. Okay,
Yes,
well, Elizabeth Teeters, wherever you are, you're on notice. Oh, there you are. So he'll be an agenda. It'll be an agenda item, I hope. And then,
And when are those meetings?
I don't know. I chair the committee, but I just show up.
Well, I'll get with Elizabeth.
Actually, it's like the third Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
Yeah, the third Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. And
they're in person, I hope.
yeah, it's
Kevin and I
Elizabeth.
can come in.
And she'll let you know, sometimes we have 2 presentations, maybe 3, but the 2 of you can work out.
Yeah.
And then we have our, our community development people there, like Mavita, Darren,
Yep.
Davin Lopez,
Davin.
and then the Greater Las Cruces, Debbie.
Debbie Moore.
Debbie Moore, yes. I'm sorry.
We'd be happy to do that, you bet.
Yeah, and it's just, just getting on board and making sure that, and so I do have a question for you. You say that some people can be hired on partial clearance.
Yes, ma'am. I don't have the exact details.
Okay.
We can
but
get that from General Sanchez or his team.
That's
to
fine.
work on this.
Because my question is, you say it takes 18 months to process full clearance.
Yeah, right.
Is it possible that during their partial clearance employment that they would be able to get on the list for full clearance, or does that require certain training or a certain level of whatever?
That's a little beyond my scope, but I believe I'm correct on this. They really have to complete their full clearance process before they can begin even part-time working. If
Oh,
they're
you said
if they're
that there was
working-
partial clearance,
Well-
that there was partial clearance employment.
What I meant to say then, if I misspoke, I apologize, is that there's certain levels of clearance that you get. It's not so much that it's partial, it's you have to reach a certain clearance level, and then from there, you can then, because of the work that you do, can get your clearance elevated to a higher level. But there's no partial clearance.
Oh, for some reason, that's what I heard, so
Yeah.
I'll just erase that. But it's just that I think we're all concerned about our brain drain and how we have a lot of our youth, very talented people in New Mexico, whether they're from NMSU or UNM or other universities in our area, who end up leaving.
Yep.
You know, they
We
go
have
on
the
to,
same
and I think a
problem
lot
in
of them
Utah.
go on like to Silicon Valley, and then they come back because they get homesick. But we should, have definitely that opportunity
I
here.
agree with you. Yes, ma'am.
And one thing to add to that is, so we've been working on this issue for several years now, and as we began to address this issue, the one of the commanders created a program, if you will, that gives them direct hire authority for some of these graduates. That sounds great and all, but the problem is that in order for them to go get employed on those specific jobs, they have to get the security clearances. So it's like it was a very temporary mandate, a Band-Aid that helps solve some of the lower level employment issues. But as Richard mentioned, with that program, NMSU will be able to get this a little further out and get these guys employed as soon as they graduate.
So do you see a lot of enthusiasm at NMSU and getting on board with
Yes.
getting our youth educated into the
much.
permanent
ma'am.
positions?
Very
Great.
much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor.
We have Councilor Abeyta and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. From that, you have mentioned a few of those partners like Mavita, the Chamber, and I know that they also have I believe, a trip to DC in the Pentagon this fall too. How are we working in maybe coordination with that? Especially, I know that's one of the areas I've gone to the past to advocate at the Pentagon. It seems to me that it would be very strategic for us to utilize that time wisely if we're already going to be up there.
Great question. I'll offer this as a challenge that we face over which we have no control, and that is that the Association of the United States Army has its annual conference in Washington every year on the same week that Congress is in recess. And so we focus all of our efforts with the legislative staffers for those congressmen and women because they're not there, and with our green suitors, the military leadership themselves, who are all at the AUSA conference. When I ran the El Paso Chamber, we did very similar to what Debbie does with the Las Cruces Chamber. We would take a delegation on very specific issues that we wanted to meet about, but we would have a planned agenda that met with our legislators themselves. That's not a luxury we have. So there's a significant difference between what each of the chambers do when they go on those trips compared to what we are focused on, which is very directly related to the defense industry and trying to get them interested in our communities.
From that, though, will your meeting be before or after the other event?
Well, I don't know when the Las Cruces Chamber is going, but
I think it's going to be around the week of the September 11th.
I'm sorry?
The week of September 11th.
then ours is after.
After.
Yours after.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the benefits or differences that I would like to point out is that during the AUSA conference, you have every defense contractor that exists within the American continent and overseas concentrated in one single place. So that makes it a lot easier for the attendees to go meet directly with some of these contractors that may have they may be headquartered out of Huntsville, Alabama, or any other parts of the country. They're all going to be there, and that allows us to not only talk to the military leadership, but as well to the corporate leadership as it pertains to White Sands.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Is there any questions or things that we could do if you had people attending the event beforehand? Is there anything, like I said, questions, actions that need to happen or could happen that could help facilitate more information or conversations before you go into your meeting?
Well, I think I know where you're going with this, and the short answer is yes. So as we get ready to have this meeting with Elizabeth and her team and the committee, and we get ready to have the meetings with General Eisenhower and General Little, I think the best value we could get would be, as Debbie and her team from the chamber are planning for your September trip, to see what some of their priorities are and see if any of those align with what we're doing or any of the things we're doing align with your reasons for going. And then just as importantly, any potential feedback we could get from your team after you get back from Washington may be informative for us as we go up in October. Our dates are the 9th through the 11th of October that we're there. We're actually there a little longer, but the meetings are that Monday through Wednesday. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, and that's kind of to the point of making sure that we're chatting with each other and not creating any silos, because I think that would be helpful for both entities. If we're going to be up there, just making sure that we're looking at that kind of as a team approach.
And I'm so glad you used that word silo. And I'm going to try to be very diplomatic on this, but one of the reasons ARMS was formed was because none of the three communities were communicating with one another on anything related to military and defense, except out of desperation. And so this has helped us. It's taken a while, I might add, but that's okay because we all have to adjust. But it really has taken us a couple of years to get where we are today, where all of the community partners see the value in working together on this. And actually, if I may, Mayor, I just want to touch on something that I was going to say for the very end, but with your comments, you kind of helped me segue. Our agreement with the city of Las Cruces expires in October of this year. And we very much like, and it'll be your decision as to how you do it and when you do it, to bring back to council an agenda item for discussion and hopefully action, maybe in August, to consider a renewal of that agreement with us.
Richard, I'm sorry for interrupting, but we probably can't be discussing that because it hasn't been on the agenda. But
Okay.
I get your point.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And just work with me. And so I apologize, but yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we're following the rules. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Richard and Kevin. Appreciate your work and expertise and presentation. I think it's essential that we work together, especially on behalf of the military installations. I think there's a number of things we can cross-pollinate on. And as mentioned before, I had the opportunity to go with, and it was enlightening. I really enjoyed it and learned so much. There's a number of companies out there. You get to hear from the company's standpoint, right, what it is that they're looking for. And I sort of reached over to Mayor as you were talking and said, you know, this is so essential to me in terms of mitigating the brain drain. And I'll give you an example, and if you're not communicating with them, it's probably something we should. I was asked to do a kind of graduation speech for TRIO, which is, if you're not familiar with TRIO through the university, a first generation program, right? A kind of mentoring program for folks. Such bright students graduating. And what was interesting to me is each of them had done internships outside of our area, out of state, and they were graduating with big degrees, engineering, biology, chemistry, and none of them were staying here. Many of them going to the place that they'd done internships before or apprenticeship programs. So we still have a lot of work to do in terms of, especially the university. There's so many programs that are well-intended, doing excellent work, but we seem to continue to have a disconnect around that area. And what was enlightening to me is meeting with GE Defense and GE Electric, and those smaller, sort of out-of-the-country organizations that would really like to connect from the expertise, but also those students. So how do we do that in a meaningful way? And that's a question to you. How do we do that in a meaningful way where the city plays a huge part, a huge role? Because there's all these meetings happening, and we seem to forget all the players, right, or a few players. So I want to push us to really try to coordinate the efforts, because I think when we do that, we just, like you said, we're in it together.
Right.
So.
Okay, I'm glad you asked us a real simple, easy question to close out the afternoon, but with all due respect, you raised some really good points. This last trip, and I mean, it really was baptism by fire. And Jonathan, that was his first trip, and
Yeah.
I think folks walk out of the building after that first day or so sort of stunned because they had no idea just how gigantic this whole thing is. It's overwhelming. And so that's one of the reasons why we're trying to coordinate these meetings in advance of going up this October. As an example, one of the communities had 6 people on the trip. In addition to that being a lot of money being spent, because as we all know, there's nothing inexpensive in Washington. The hotels are not inexpensive, none of the meals, certainly not the airline tickets, but then it's also wasted time. If you're taking individuals just for them to come along versus being key people. As Mayor Pro Tem, it's essential that someone in leadership at the City of Las Cruces, in my view, is with us, because that elevates the level of the meeting that we're having with whomever we're meeting, because they recognize it's an elected official that's in a position to influence decisions who's on the trip with us. Beyond that, then a key person, whoever that might be, whether that's the city manager, the assistant city manager, economic development director, they're important to be on the trip. So Borderplex went with us, as you know. They sent 2 of their really top talented people. They had subsequent meetings after we came back from Washington. I think the way for us to get there is to identify, first of all, what are our focuses going to be? What are our priorities? Who do we want to meet with because of that? And then determine who should be on the trip from each community, so that when we go, and just for the audience who have not been, in some of the meetings that we have, they have a very limited space. And so if we're taking an army with us, no pun intended, it's really hard to not only get everybody in the room, but it's also just as difficult to have any meaningful conversations, because you have just too many people in the room. But if we have the right people going from each community, then we can have a meeting scheduled specific for Las Cruces and Doña Ana. That's separate from a meeting that's being held related to Fort Bliss or the city of El Paso. And that also enables us to then have more strategic conversations with those entities and the people that represent them. And I think that's how it'll help us. So this is critically important.
Thank you, Richard. I know that I've had a conversation with Chris Faber and Elizabeth about, are you going? And if so, we'd like to send somebody with. And so I will, drill down those dates and make sure that I can be available, or someone
That would be great.
from a leadership position. And then lastly, I'd like to invite you, again, our Suicide Prevention Task Force, if you can get that message out to our partners at White Sands and Fort Bliss. We're having our Recovery Night celebration, a forum. It's usually a conference where we bring big names over to have the training, if you will, on suicide prevention on September 7th, 8th, and 9th. Location to be determined, but I know you have my information, and we can plug in folks that it's always a priority for me to ensure that we represent our veterans and military in some way. And so I'd love to pick your brain about how we do that for this particular event.
Yes,
so with
ma'am.
that, Mayor, thank you.
The only thing I'd like to offer to that last comment is, the sooner you give us the details, then the better off for us, so we can communicate those messages to the right people within the mental health community and the hospitals, et cetera, so that then we can have, hopefully, a good representation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that kind of concludes the comments. And in closing, I've been thinking about next year, so I probably will help volunteer, but not, not on a regular basis, but maybe on an occasional basis, okay? So,
I can promise you we will accept gratefully.
all right, good.
Thank you,
All right.
Mayor.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all very
We
much.
appreciate it.
Your time. Thank you.
Okay, so next item is the item 3.2, Sustainability Quarterly Update. Lisa LaRocque will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City Management, and audience. My name is Lisa LaRocque. I'm the Sustainability Officer for the City of Las Cruces. I'm here today with a quarterly report, and I scheduled it well in advance, but fortuitously, or unfortuitously, if that's a word, it is about heat. So, heat is a health and safety risk, and we in the Southwest don't recognize the changes in our weather patterns. We know that it's variable, it goes up and down, it's hot, less hot, but in actuality, it is sloping up, and so that we are continuing to get hotter and hotter weather. It is both chronic because of urban heat, and it's acute when we have these extreme heat events. And we are continuing to treat heat events as they occur instead of trying to prevent them, and I'm here today to suggest ways that we can hopefully prevent them. So urban heat, just to help us with our vocabulary, happens when concrete and asphalt absorb and radiate heat day and night, and machines and a lack of vegetation make it worse. So on the right-hand side, you see what is an infrared photo. It's the heat that is being radiated out from different sources. You can see that the street, the asphalt street, is radiating out a temperature of 140 degrees. The tailpipes with those little white spots are also radiating out even more, about 150. And even though that's not the ambient temperature, the temperature we feel, if you were to be bold enough to lie down on that asphalt, you would know what I'm talking about. So we also did a study with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, where we had different groups concurrently driving around at different points of time, at 6 in the morning, at 3 in the afternoon, and at 7 at night. And we were able to gather data about the ambient temperature, about the temperatures that you feel. And we have a comparison here of Sonoma Ranch area. The intersection is by Sonoma Ranch and Sonoma Springs. And on the top, they're all exactly the same map. And then on the lower part, we have El Paseo in the center, intersected by Wyatt and Idaho. Of course, I know that. So the thing I want to show you is that this is the same day. It is the same time, but it is two different places in the city. And over the course of the day, you can see that there's a difference between Sonoma Ranch area, the upper desert area, from the center city. And those temperature changes go from 5 degrees to 6 degrees to up to 10 degrees at night. So people who So when we think the temperature may be 100 or 102 even in the city, in other areas, people are experiencing temperatures much hotter. And it takes a lot longer for these impervious surfaces to radiate and give off that heat. And so people at 7 and 8 in the evening in El Paseo are still experiencing 103-degree temperatures, and it takes a long time before you can actually have a cool enough evening, which is very dangerous to try to sleep through, especially if you don't have proper air conditioning. So now to switch, besides that chronic event that we see through the summer with urban heat, there's also climate change. That is when carbon in the atmosphere traps reflected heat throughout the planet. And this magnifies extreme weather events like heat or precipitation patterns or winds and wildfires. And it's a global phenomena. And it plays out differently depending on jet streams and other geographic features that influence it, but it makes your weather more extreme. And we had a study done specifically for Las Cruces that looked at how our maximum temperatures are going to change over the year, and right now we're already predicting or can say that we have at least 3 weeks of temperatures that are over 100 degrees, and one of those weeks will invariably be over 105 or more. And that by mid-century, we can expect to see over a month, 5 weeks of over 100 and 2 weeks of over 105. And by the end of the century, we will have 11 weeks or almost 3 months of temperatures over 100, and at least a month or 5 weeks that are over 105. And as I said, these temperatures are similar to Phoenix, Arizona. And there was a study that was just done, and that was released on May 2023, that said if there is a heat wave and a blackout that occurred for 2 consecutive days with intermittent services, it would send half of Phoenix to the ER, and about approximately 13,000 of those people were predicted to die. And so that's serious. And I don't know how to say it any other way, but I want to bring it to your attention. And we are already experiencing right now an excessive heat watch today, and the whole area of Juarez and El Paso and the border has an excessive heat warning. And so these sorts of predictions are becoming more and more frequent and elevating in their severity. So when I talk about heat management or reacting to the situation, the folks that I'm most concerned about are children, athletes, older adults, pregnant people, emergency responders, outdoor and indoor workers, and pets. And what the situation is that has caused people to need to go to the ER is when you have a heat stroke, when you're confused, have a throbbing headache, or even become unconscious. And those are all really important things to plan for and to consider, to be aware of how you respond to those things. But the other strategy that is upstream is to look more at how we can prevent it. So what are some of the indicators that we have of areas that we should be concerned about? With low, or not areas per se, but populations, is that 50% of the low and moderate income homes only have evaporative coolers or fans. And when the temperatures are 108, you can drop, if there's no humidity, you can drop your temperatures by up to 15 degrees, but that 93 is not really comfortable. And if you don't have an effective system, it's less. If it's during the monsoon season with more humidity, the evaporative cooler doesn't even function well at all. It drops at about 10 degrees. So there's 62% of the LMI community is energy burdened, and 25% of the LMI community is house burdened. That means that these residents spend more than 6% of their money on utility and 6% of their income, rather, on utilities, and they spend over 30% on mortgage or rent. And what we're finding is that a lot of people voluntarily choose, not voluntarily, but need to choose to reduce their use of utilities just to be able to make it affordable to them. So they put themselves in harm's way by not having an ambient temperature that's safe for them. 32% of the LMI households are seniors. 56% of births in 2021 were from women in poverty in Las Cruces. So that is another indication of a risk population. And 5.1% are linguistically isolated. And that is the threshold for needing to do multilingual outreach. And there are some areas that are up to 12%. And the average residential building age is about 46 years old. So that means that many people have end-of-life equipment that makes it even less efficient to be able to use. So all of these conditions are predictors of future problems. And so trying to remove some of those factors to make it more hospitable for our area all the time means that we need to be mitigating or lowering the amount of heat that is around the area. And that's how we build resilience. So I have some suggestions about ways that we can do it. One of them is to commit to significantly increasing the tree canopy and to use green infrastructure in that process to make sure that the trees are able to transpire and give those cooling functions that they can do, and to otherwise incorporate shade structures to reduce heat exposure. In the report that just came out in May, it said that if cities planted enough trees to shade half of their streets, deaths would drop in the case of Phoenix by 27%. The other thing that we can do is we can require cool reflective sealants on bike lanes and roads with high urban heat impact values. So that means for people who do cross a street, even though they're not going to lie down on Walton and Lohman, they will experience a much cooler environment. So to allow for those who use other forms of mobility to be able to have a safe and comfortable environment. And to also require highly reflective, cool roofs on every building. That's something that's required in LA, and they have the same climate zone that we do. And what was found that is if Phoenix had, or if a city installs highly reflective, cool roofs on every building, deaths would drop by 66% in Phoenix. So the idea of having a well-insulated envelope, or at a minimum the roof, has an extreme impact on the cooling effects within a house. Lastly, I'd recommend increasing weatherization in vulnerable neighborhoods because their houses are the ones that heat up the most, and particularly to transition to efficient heat pumps that provide both air conditioning and heating. So those are my suggestions for this hot day. I know there'll be more of them, and I wanted to clearly state that being proactive in this is to benefit to the whole city. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. We have Councilor Beta, Councilor Flores. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Beta, Councilor Bencomo, Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Lisa, with this. Just as a question, I am looking at the issues with the cool roofs. Do we have any sort of requirements, at least for city buildings at this time?
Mayor, Councilor Beta, we will be bringing forward a new code, and in that code, we have both a mandatory code for both commercial and residential, and then we have what's a stretch code that's voluntary for residential and commercial, but continues to be mandatory for us. And in that code, yes, cool roofs will be required.
Okay, great. And then I'm just thinking of like the opportunities with a lot of the stuff that we have with improvements with roads and, even with, we've had GO bonds and more building, more structures, just seeing what we can incorporate as some of these perhaps items to put on anytime that we're doing any sort of these improvements, that we're just starting to take this into consideration and put these factors into place. Thank you, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Bencomo.
Thanks, Lisa, so much for your presentation today. The slide that you had, Sonoma Ranch and El Paseo, was just incredibly stark in terms of just the inequities that we will see with climate change that we already know exist, but are just so in your face when you put them in a graphic like this. So I appreciate that. I was also thinking that I think just gently remind you that honestly, as you were listing the populations of concern, I immediately was thinking, can you imagine being an unhoused person on El Paseo at 6, 7 p.m. in the evening yesterday,
yeah.
And what that means for people who are experiencing homelessness. I think that's why, I'm glad that the city turned on cooling stations, and I think in the future, I really think we should start a little bit earlier with that kind of strategy and providing cooling stations, given that it could be 80 degrees at 7 a.m., but 103 degrees at 8 p.m. And what that can do to somebody's mental health, frankly, heat stroke. And so I kept thinking about that, Lisa, and to make sure you add that population in the areas of concern, because I think that's just such a big gap, right?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, I certainly felt for that. It was difficult to find the statistics, but I should have just mentioned it because I agree with you.
Thank you, Lisa. And then just, we've talked about lack of public transit infrastructure, like shade structures at bus stops. Again, for people who use the bus, for people who use public transit, LMI communities, I know that there is a study already on how many bus stops are missing. And this is on me as well to put more urgency behind this, and I'll be talking to city manager about it, but I really would like to talk, if it's in TSI PRC, how we bring forth an actual plan with numbers, with a cost analysis for how much it would cost to make sure that we have shade structures at every single bus station, particularly on the area, I think El Paseo, there's one area in El Paseo that I'm thinking, which is the Walgreens and the Albertsons. There is no shade structure there, and there's a giant, and it happens to be on a giant parking lot. So I would really like to think about that, EFO, and the TSI PRC, I guess, as to how we can bring a proposal forward. And my other question, Lisa, was around the cool reflective sealants.
Sealants? Mm-hmm.
Sealants. Do you have a cost analysis for that? And what, if we think about priority roadways, what potentially would be the cost of bringing that kind of material?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, there have been several studies that have been done in Arizona that are germane to this area as well. One of the selling features is that when you, it does increase the cost by I'm not sure about the unit of measure. I think it's, well, I'm not going to say because I'm not confident, but I can get that data to you.
Great.
But the other, it's like it's not a large percentage. But the other factor is that having the reflective surface on there, the cooling surface on it, it also increases the durability of the asphalt coat because it doesn't have that intense heat going to it. And so not only it costs more, but then you also can have you don't have to replace or put sealant on again for a longer period of time. But the studies show that it is very cost effective, and we have recommended that using this data from the heat study, that if the surface temperature is over 90 degrees, on average amongst those 3 times, that we should add the sealant to those areas.
Lisa, maybe help me understand too what a sealant looks like, because I'm thinking it's like, oh, it's like the green paint on.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So then is the ideal moment to bring this during a reconstruction? It can be done whenever, and right, like I'm thinking about, speaking of silos, how we work better together as utilities, public works, to say, okay, well, like Madrid, I'm thinking about Madrid right now, having this giant, like they're doing reconstruction, they're doing sidewalks, like this would be a perfect time to bring something to what I imagine would be very high on this scale, this neighborhood. So like, how do we make sure we add this to like a checklist for when a road is being
Mayor,
redone?
Councilor Bencomo, the proposal to have that requirement of putting sealant on high urban heat areas is now in Realize, but
Great.
it's still under review, so hopefully it will stay.
Under review by the committee?
Well, it's still under public comment. It's still under the.
Oh, the whole thing?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'm glad you noted that. I will make sure to remember that next time they come to council. And then, you know, I would, oh wait, I'm sorry, Lisa, the sealant, can it be done on just any road right now? We can get a bunch of it next month. It can just be put on a road, or does it have to be at a certain, during a reconstruction?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, it is best when the surface is smoothest because you'll have less little holes in it, so you need less material. But it doesn't have to be green either. It can be gray, it can be black, it can be, I think gray makes more sense. I know that there's a love of asphalt blackness, so, but either, any color, it's available in any color.
Okay.
So, but it's best if it's on a smoother surface because you protected the asphalt underneath for a longer period of time, and it's smoother, so you don't waste as much going down in the cracks.
Okay. Aoife, I'd be interested to know what this would mean for like the pavement management index, to add like an additional checklist there, right, in terms of, and again, and this could just be my bias as well on where the smoother roads are, that could continue to add to even more inequity in a heat map. But to think about like where these areas are, if it's LMI communities, and to, you know, add that as part of the process for the pavement index management. Did I get that right? Yes. And then just my last question on the tree canopy, Lisa, same thing. Do you have, like, it would cost this much for us to get to the desired goal on the tree canopy?
Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, I have a statistic that is the favorite of Councilor Gondara, and that is that in order for us to increase the tree canopy by 5%, we would need 72,000 trees, which sounds like a lot, but there's 40,000 households, so that's 2 trees a household. We are starting a new program called Neighborwoods that will provide 1 or 2 trees.
They came to council, right? Is this what I'm thinking? Okay, great.
And they, Albuquerque has a program that allows the trees to be put on private property because of the public good of providing shade. And that is something that we might be able to adopt here as well, and that the people are responsible for maintaining these trees. And that is why I suggested that we also allow for green infrastructure by either having swales, like holes that will collect the water more readily, and curb cuts that you can bring the water, stormwater that's just running down the street into those areas to be able to augment that. Trees that have green infrastructure used grow 30% more than trees without. So that seems like a no-brainer. But that program, Green or Neighborhoods, right now is at a trial basis and is only planting 50 trees. But it's a start. That's right.
Well, I would love to see some of these conversations come to more fruition through what we have available to us, which is the PRCs. And I think the TSI PRC would be a great place to have some of these conversations and get them more formalized into ordinance format, Lisa. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Flores?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Lisa LaRocque. When I was first elected to City Council in 2017, I was so excited because you were here, and that we had such a department. Or actually, it wasn't. You were still in economic development, and now I don't know. But at any rate, but you know, Lisa, it's been we've gone through 4 city managers. You've had excellent ideas and for implementation, not just, willy-nilly ideas, but plans. And I'm just wondering, I know the Nevada corridor, was that what it was, the Nevada corridor? That was like a streamlined project. And I think that we've had success, or the city has had success in that. And then, but a lot of the things that you speak of today, it's just like climate change conferences throughout the world, same old, same old. And I don't mean, you're repeating yourself. I mean, we have made very little strides in terms of moving on stuff. And I'm happy that the neighborhoods are doing the 50 trees. So the tree planting generally in the city, Lisa, is coming from our friends, our neighborhoods friends, or is the city undertaking anything? And maybe this is a question for Larry Nichols and maybe a directive to Mr. Peely to make sure that homes that are being built have trees. I don't know. Can we impose that? I don't know if it'd be a violation of anybody's civil rights to insist that homes be built and there be trees. I know I have 3 or 4 or 5 trees in my backyard, and I step out and it's just as cool as it is inside, well, for a little while, and then it just feels really hot. But, so have you, Lisa, personally, can you maybe just, maybe nothing statistical or proven data, or maybe there is proven data that there have been changes these last 6 years in the city, besides city managers?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, I believe that overall there's been a lot of progress. I think for the reasons that I explained earlier on, that in the beginning, is that we don't think of heat as a problem. And so we just, go inside this time of day and talk about our blue skies and those sorts of things, and respond when there's heat. So I think the situation is escalating in that area, and it hasn't. We're trying to integrate it into the realized goals, because that institutionalizes the changes, as opposed to little pilot projects that are nice but not repeated. So that's a new strategy that we're trying to employ, is by institutionalizing these or codifying these sorts of changes and hoping that they'll be more influential. I think there's a lot of other areas that we've made progress in terms with energy, but the outside is big. And we're actually working very intently on addressing retrofits for low and moderate income households, to make sure that they are resilient, that they are affordable, have affordable energy, and have heating and cooling that are, and weatherization that are appropriate for the conditions that we have in the city. So I think there is some tangible work, but these are practices that other departments need to incorporate, and we all need to work together to be able to express those, and having the council's endorsement of them is a strong motivator for us. So
Lisa, in terms of, there's like a zillion homes that have gone up in the East Mesa since I moved here, or bought a house here. And are those homes, is there an ordinance, or maybe Larry can speak to this later or something, but in terms of having the roof, cool roof, do we have anything like that in our ordinances, or is that required or mandated in any way? Can it be?
Mayor, Councilor Flores, it is not currently required.
Okay, because I think that Realize Las Cruces is so wonderful, just absolutely great, and it took years to finally have it finalized, but I'm wondering how we're going to implement it. Do we have to pass an ordinance every time, we need something done, like, the cool roofs and getting more trees up, and maybe making the developers, Mr. Nichols, not making them, but having it somewhat incorporated with building new homes, and then, of course, that will be passed on to the buyers, so we won't have any buyers anymore because the missing middle is missing. But then we can use our funds, our city funds, for the Lift Las Cruces, and just for other areas that are definitely lower income areas. So I just want to say that, Mr. Peely and Mr. Tamopeo, and I think that we have to really do something, because a lot hasn't changed in the city these last 6 years, have they, Lisa? Yeah. I mean, is that a rhetorical question? Yes, it's a rhetorical question. So I do hope, and sometimes we get kind of, and I'm glad that you are where you are, because I know that we up here deal with we deal with so many issues, so it's really good to have people in their respective departments who are so focused on that, to see where we are. Sadly, it doesn't seem like we've accomplished a lot in the last 6 years in terms of meeting the demands of climate change and, the warming, So, Mr. Peely, I hope that we focus on climate change issues in terms of our codes. I think we need codes for that. Is that correct, Mr. Nichols? To make sure that the new homes that are going up will have all of that. I know that electrification is an issue, or I think incorporated into the new homes, so hopefully that'll happen. Do we need to start working on it, Mr. Nichols, and we'll have it in a year or two? Yes. Is it okay if Mr. Nichols answers that question? Of course.
Certainly, but Mayor and Councilor Flores, Jenny Hernandez is going to be presenting codes, building codes that we have modified for new construction. And so you don't even have to wait a couple years. We are going to be presenting it in a couple months.
Okay, because I'll be gone in 2.5 years. I mean, adios, amigos.
You'll be able to put this in your legacy.
I'll be able to put it in my little dear diary when I'm in my little retirement home. Thank you so much, Lisa. And I think Larry is going to address, okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, Larry Nichols, Community Development Director. Many of the things that were presented today we have faced for a number of years. To answer some of your questions about what can we do about the types of materials that are used to help energy efficiency, and what have we done up to this point, especially the last 2 years or so. We did adopt the International Energy Efficiency Code, and that goes a long ways to helping some of the things that Lisa talked about today. She mentioned weatherization. One of the things that has to do with that is air change, like air leakage that we see, and we have those codified now where we test for that. And they have to present an affidavit through a test that they've addressed that problem. We've increased the resistance in terms of insulation requirements for homes. We will be bringing to the City Council building code updates. The State of New Mexico Construction Industries Division has adopted the 2021 building codes, residential and commercial codes. They have mandated that we do the same. And we will be bringing those code changes to you later this fall for your information and adoption. We do this every 6 years. The reason that we do that is to address some of the things that Lisa mentioned, where we have new technology, new materials that can be incorporated to help us address some of the issues that we spoke about today. The item of cool roof, we do not have that, but we do have in our codes now that are required of builders are use of certain types of materials. One of the main things to produce a cool roof is the color of the materials. The lighter colors have reflectivity, and heat is generated by 3 different components: conduction, convection, and radiation. And so if you can address some of those in your material selection, you will produce a cooler type of roof. But more to come as our codes are brought to you with this update and adoption of the 2021 codes, which is some of the most current technology to address problems that we're talking about today.
Thank you, Larry and Mr. Nichols. And what about the roof, the cool roof? That's not going to be an ordinance? I mean, that would be absolutely wonderful. And it'd be great if we had an ordinance, or somehow maybe have a program to help lower income people, to have the ability to have those cool roofs. But do you see an ordinance coming for new structures?
Mayor and Councilor Flores, I see that we're constantly adopting new technology, new material utilization, and so there's a very strong possibility that that could be incorporated under the new code adoption. We have several of those in place right now, but it comes down to what you mentioned earlier. Utilizing those materials in many cases have a cost involved, and we're trying to produce affordable and attainable housing, and we have to kind of balance that with what we would codify for a mandatory requirement for materials.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance there.
It is.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Nichols. And thank you, Ms. LaRock. You rock, Lisa Rock.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, well, thank you, Lisa, for your presentation. We appreciate the update every quarter, and just keep rocking on.
Jeez.
Okay, so next item is 3.3, Las Cruces City Art Board update. Ceci Vasconcelos. And while I'm here, I didn't know if he was going to make a presentation or not, but former Councilor Greg Smith is in the audience. Good to see you, Councilor.
Hi, Greg.
Christine, how do I start the slideshow? Oh, F5. There we go. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Ceci Vasconcelos, and I'm the Public Art Coordinator with the Quality of Life Department under the Quality of Life, under the Quality of Life Department. And we're here to give you an update on the Las Cruces Public Art Program. The Public Art Program, supported by the Quality of Life Department, oversees and manages all public art projects, budgets for operations, maintenance, art commissions, and artist contracts, and basically everything having to do with public art. We collaborate with the City Art Board to meet the goals as set at the Public Art Master Plan. And I'd like to introduce the City Art Board, members who are with us today. First, Katrina Chandler, who is the chair of the City Art Board, and Melanie Brown, she's the secretary of the Art Board. And you mentioned Mr. Greg Smith, who's also a member. And those who could not make it today are Chantel Yazzie Martin, Jag Crabtree, and Caleb Blundell. And thank you for taking the time to be here. And also, I'd like to thank the entire board for volunteering to be on this board. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. And Adam Amador. I thought I had him. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Katrina Chandler to go through the rest of the presentation.
All right. So now I got to figure this out. If I just press the space bar, does it do it?
Or you can press
What? Perfect.
your height, because I'm sure.
Okay, I'll do that. All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name's Katrina Chandler, and I'm the chair of the City Art Board. So we haven't presented to you guys in a while, so what I'm going to do today is kind of tell you what we've been doing and what we plan to continue to do. So we'll get started. We're going to start with the accomplishments of the City Art Board. One huge accomplishment is the GeoBond 2% public art funding ordinance. The City Art Board was pretty instrumental in helping to get the GeoBond 2% funding because this ordinance is now in place. The funding was approved this past election for Fire Station number 9 and the East Mesa Public Recreation Complex. Just to note additionally, 0.05% of that funding will go towards maintenance of public art around the city, which means that it can go into a pool that we can pull from in order to maintain all of the public art that's within the city. The adoption of this ordinance is what will help sustain city art in Las Cruces and continue to offer opportunities for local and national artists who make a career through public art, which is a big part of what we're trying to do. Next, we have some of the public art projects that we were able to accomplish over the last 3 years. First of all, I think you're probably all familiar with the City Hall lobby art, Endless Passage by Debbie Dickinson. Then we have the Animal Service Center of Mesilla Valley metal sculpture by Vito DeBari, which was just recently constructed, and the Fire Station number 3 sculpture by Arturo Garcia, which was also just recently constructed. Those last two having been completed their install just this past month, this month. The Endless Passage was the first installation using CIP funding, while the Fire Station and ASCMV both used GeoBond money that Public Works generously donated for public art. 1% of the construction funding that they got was used to create both of these projects, and I just wanted you guys to know where that funding came from. just to be aware of like what our funding sources are and how we were able to accomplish these goals. But again, like we said, we have the 2% ordinance that we will now be able to use in order to fund projects similar to these, which also gives us a little bit more money to work with to create more dynamic and larger pieces, hopefully, or more. Okay. So the next up we have, so the City Art Board was also able to launch a QR code project with the support of Ceci, our liaison. We had 9 public art pieces that were chosen. The City Art Board collectively decided the 9 that we were going to begin with. We researched and wrote about those pieces, and then those writings were recorded with the help of KTAL Public Radio Station. Then signs were put up at all 9 locations featuring QR codes that when you scan them would lead to a website to read the story of the piece or to listen to an audio recording. To kick off the QR code project, we held a scavenger hunt that led participants to all 9 locations. And then we had weekly winners of the scavenger hunt with the grand prize winner at the end. That's who's pictured here is Morgan Tierney, and she won a basket of gift cards and art pieces donated by the CAB members. The first 9 pieces currently used in the QR code project are just part of the pilot program, and we have plans to continue to add the stories of the rest of the public art pieces around Las Cruces, with continued support from KTAL. And I don't know why I keep looking up there when it's like right here, but I do. So every year, the Doniana Arts Council hosts their annual art award ceremony. And last year, the City Art Board received the Art in Public Places Arts Award, which was the piece that began the partnership with DAAC. So CAB is now going to be the sponsor of this award and assist in promoting the category and seeking nominations of public artists in the community. So we are currently in the process of doing this. CAB is developing a rubric and which will help choose the winner for this category. So the nominations are currently going on right now for that category. And we're looking forward to being able to honor a local public art artist at the award ceremony in October held by DAAC. Okay. Next, we have the community outreach that we've been getting out there, meeting people. So it's been something we've been focusing on the past few years. So our goal in this is public engagement, awareness of CAB, and developing opportunities for artists. Part of the success of the City Art Board is being known by the community as a resource for artists wanting to make a career in public art, or a support for getting artists in touch with the resources that they do need. We have been tabling at the Farmers Market and the Fine Art Flea Market quarterly, and been getting the names, information of community members who are either interested in the board or the resources the board may be able to provide for them. It's been an interesting opportunity talking to people about what public art means throughout Las Cruces, and also just the awareness that they have now that there are possibilities for them to apply to these public art programs or these public art calls. And I think it's kind of eye-opening seeing them realize that there's an opportunity for them to make a living doing public art, which is a beast all in itself, aside from just being an artist. So, yeah. Also, CAB collaborated with Visit Las Cruces in April for Mira Las Cruces, and we held the first annual Chalk the Plaza event featuring 10 local artists who chalked an area in the downtown plaza. Our former chair, Christina Ballou, was instrumental in putting this together. She had been a part of a lot of Chalk the Plaza events or chalking events in the past and saw the value of bringing something like this back for artists here in our community. So she presented this to our board, and we were very excited to be able to do it and felt like Mira was a really great opportunity to begin that collaboration. So attendees of the event were encouraged to vote for their favorite artist, and we had around 800 votes, and it was estimated that about 3,000 people walked through that area, just the Chalk the Plaza area itself. We got that information from Visit Las Cruces. CAB tabled at the event and gave out CAB merch and information on public art and what the City Art Board does. This event also provided those 10 artists with an experience to participate in a public art event, have their work seen, and win a Public Choice Award and a grand prize. CAB recently voted in the last meeting to continue the Chocolate Plaza event in conjunction with Mira. So that is something that we really saw the benefit of. We did a SWOT analysis on everything. We kind of mitigated how we can improve it in years to come, but we really saw it as a huge benefit to what we were doing and really met a lot of the goals that we have outlined in our master plan. So next we have education. So education is a huge factor in the success of public artists. So CAB facilitated 3 workshops open to community members that were geared towards helping artists develop their professional practice. One thing that we noticed about local artists was that they weren't aware of, even though we have a great art institution through NMSU, and we have art programs through DACC, artists coming out of there don't know how they can make a professional living doing their artwork, because they need to be taught how to develop a portfolio, how to photograph their work, how to write a CV or a resume for themselves, how to apply for public work, where to apply for public work, public artwork. So that's what these workshops were geared towards, what they were developed on. So we were able to collaborate with other artists and professionals to teach these workshops. We had a professor from NMSU, we had the University Art Museum curator, and we had a local artist, Isadora Stowe, who all put on workshops teaching the attendees, and we had about 10 to 15 attendees per workshop. It was all through Zoom because it was kind of like during COVID times. Where these artists were then, we had specific ones about portfolio building, photographing, CV writing, artist statement writing, and how to apply for public artwork. So we felt like that was pretty successful. We had a lot of great feedback from the attendees, and we have future plans to bring something more robust in the future to help with that, and that I'll talk about in a little bit. So also this past year, the interim NMSU sculpture professor, who I believe was just hired as a full-time sculpture professor, but I'm on record, but don't quote me. Her name is Cruces. So she reached out to CAB to discuss the possibility of getting her students involved in what public art is, and she came in seeking support from the board. Samoniego's class was able to survey public art around Las Cruces and give a breakdown of the conditions of these pieces and what history they could find. The class then gave their presentation at the NMSU Art Department building, where CAB was able to attend, and we also helped give some insight into some of the works and connect with students who were interested in public art or conservation of public art. So that was a very successful kind of union, and we're hoping that something more can come of that if we can partner with Chris a little bit more. But she had also even spoke to us about presenting in her classroom, just to give anything to help these students. Sculpture students were specifically, I think they're more geared, I think that medium is a little bit more geared towards public art. I mean, anything could be public art, but specifically she was teaching sculpture, and she has a robust public art background as well. And so she was interested in us coming in and speaking to these students and telling them how to apply through their call for entry website that we use, and giving them some insight into what the history of public art is in Las Cruces. So hopefully we can continue that relationship as well. Okay, cool. So next we're gonna talk about what we're fixing to do. So because of the GeoBond ordinance, we have funding for artwork on Fire Station number 9 and for the East Mesa Public Recreation Complex. And we've already started our conversations with stakeholders. Just for a short little brief on how we handle that is, once we have the input from the stakeholders, we'll develop a pre-committee to develop a call for art based on what everybody kind of felt like was needed for that area. Once the call is placed, we'll develop a selection committee consisting of board members, stakeholders, and community members. And then the selection committee will present their recommendation for the public art, and the city art board will vote. So that's basically like a very simplified version of how that works. But we're currently, for those 2 projects, we are in the stakeholder phase, where we're just discussing with stakeholders what they want in that area. Another project that we're working on is the Klein Park art project. So it's been something CAB has been discussing for several years and has recently voted to move forward with a mural project by a local indigenous artist, Diego Medina. The goal is to get the project started by the end of July, and funding for this project is coming through CIP funds, so I just want to let you guys know that. This is kind of a huge deal for that area, as we've been looking to put something in that space by an indigenous artist, and it's great. Diego's from that area, his family are part of the founders of that area, and he's going to be doing a patterned mural around the entire wall of the Klein Park area, which he also plans to have as a community mural, which means that he'll have community members come out and help him paint that. CAB has also collaborated with transportation to develop a rotating arts program that will feature local artists on bus stop terminals around the city. CAB's worked on developing a plan for a call for local artists and how to feature a diverse group of artists. So the plan is to continually update the artwork on a yearly basis. And funding for this project is coming from our CAB general funds. So we've worked with transportation on the bus terminals and getting, what are those like little frame things installed on those terminals so that we can print artwork. And the goal is that we're focusing on local artists, and we have different criteria for, like we want to feature specifically students, or we want to feature specifically indigenous, or we want to feature specifically minority, or any things like that, those different types of categories, and those will be changed out yearly, featuring this single artist throughout the year, so in those different bus terminals. So we're looking forward to getting that started. It's been approved, we've agreed, we've all voted on it, it's just now putting out the call for art and implementing that. Funding for the Earth and Cosmos mosaic repair was approved, and that project's going to begin this year. This is going to be a long process. The artist actually came to the City Art Board and kind of described the labor that goes into doing this, which is removing all of the tiles one by one, cleaning the tiles, and reinstalling all of those tiles. So it's going to be a long but well worth project that's also going to be documented for future use, so that there will be documentation on how this repair needs to happen, and for future repairs and for reference. CAB also has plans to add artwork to Buena Vida Park using CIP funding, and this is just currently in our early stages of discussion and planning phase. We know that something needs to go in District 2. We felt like Buena Vida Park was a great place to put something. And so we, like I said, we're just in early conversations about that, but plan to have something coming in there. Okay. Next we have, CAB's going to be moving forward with a professional conservation assessment in order to gain some perspective on where the public art throughout the city stands and what needs to be done in order to restore, conserve, or protect the art that is throughout the city and help maintain the city investment in public art. This is also going to be beneficial for the board to know what art needs immediate attention and give insight into what types of artwork and materials last in our extreme climates, which in turn can improve the types of calls for the art that the art board puts out. So this is a huge, it's a huge task, which we have a lot of. How many city art pieces do we have? Do you remember? Ceci Vasconcelos.
Ceci Vasconcelos for the record. At this time, we have about, I want to say about 60 pieces that we've actually inventoried. I think there may be more, but at this point, that's where our list is.
Thank you, sorry. Thank you. Okay, so going through 60 or more pieces of artwork throughout the city and having a professional conservationist come through and detail what needs to be done, what needs to be repaired, what state that these pieces are in, and giving us some insight into, one, that 0.05% of the GEO bond funding that we're getting, how that needs to be allocated, as well as if we need to try to procure in any way additional funding to address immediate needs for artwork that's in the city right now. But I think also more beneficially, well, not more beneficially, but beneficially for future calls to know, like, actually this structure really lasted very well. Like in our climate, we could specify this in future calls so that we know that this is something that's good, that's wearing well, or this deteriorated way too quickly. We need to figure out why it did that and see if we can adjust a call to mitigate those. In addition, a collection inventory will also be developed, providing the city and the community with knowledge on the history of certain pieces, as well as the title and the artist, which is just crucial. I mean, it's just respectful to just know what the title and the artist are. But this is going to also help us in identifying where public art should go, and will be a resource for the community members and visitors to take public art tours throughout the city. It's just good information. It's good historical information for us. And to continue to what I talked about before with the education aspect, to continue providing education to artists who are wanting to develop a professional practice, CAB is partnering with economic development to bring a workshop to Las Cruces called Making It Public. The workshop curriculum, as stated on their website, quotes, serves artists who are interested in exploring or expanding a public art making practice, as well as arts administrators who are interested in strengthening local practices to support, create, and promote public art opportunities. So currently, the Public Arts Coordinator, Ceci, and Economic Development are working on funding streams for the $12,500 fee to have the workshop in Las Cruces. So this is kind of like what CAB was trying to facilitate on their own, but there's already a program that does this, and what they ask of us is to just market it, to get attendees to come, and they will come to our city. They will gather local artists, they will gather key speakers, and they will bring them for that presentation, and the artists can come and learn what that they need to know, or most of what they need to know, hopefully, on how to become a public artist, public arts artist. Okay. Okay. I wanted to take a minute to thank you all for the increase in funding for maintenance and repairs that we recently received. So through, or not CAB, but through our general funds, we are covering our rotating art project, the Chalk the Plaza project, marketing materials, and the maintenance and repair of the city art pieces. So that's all having to come out of our general funds already. So any additional amount that we can get just for maintenance and repairs is great. So our program is continuing to grow and is going to keep growing thanks to the GEO bond ordinance. And so any funding to our general funds is greatly appreciated. So now I guess I'm open for questions. Yeah.
Councilor Beta.
Thank you. Mayor, thank you so much for this really wonderful presentation and really all the work that you and the board are doing, not only just with the city stuff, but the community engagement, looking how to incorporate conversations with NMSU and students. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I just wanted to say a special thank you for looking at District 2 and the need for art. I know I've said it a couple times, so I really do want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. I know our district has had, they do have some pieces, so I don't want to say they don't, right. But a lot of them, you know, like the water tower, it's very hidden. It's not really truly out there and visible. So Bonavita has a lot of people that walk around it. It has like a seniors area, stuff like that. So I think it'd be wonderful to have something. So I just wanted to say thank you. We see a lot of boards come through here, and I just want to comment about the work that you're doing and how you're engaging. I think is really beneficial to the community.
Thank you. I like that question. That's good.
Councilman Como?
Thank you so much. And actually, I'm sorry if I missed this. Do you all have a breakdown of what pieces are in what districts?
Yes, we do have something.
Will you send that to me, to us? I don't know. I'd love to see that.
Ceci Vasconcelos for the record, Mayor and Council. Yes, we do have that breakdown, and I can send that to you.
That'd be wonderful. I want to make sure I don't miss any pieces that are in my district. Thank you so much for everything you all do. I mean, we've been talking a lot about how we, you know, have stronger, better committees because we know it takes a lot, and you all are just knocking it out of the park doing festivals and all kinds of things. So just thank you for, I just really wanted to express my gratitude to all of you for serving on this board. Please send that to the rest of your colleagues. I did have a question about, I'm wondering if the City Art Board has discussed the more like culturally problematic pieces that currently exist in the city and how to go about addressing those.
Should I take a stab at it?
Yeah. Sure. Thank you, Mayor, Councilor Bencomo. We have actually discussed that, and I'm going to say it's been a conversation that we've had in the past, and I will say that we don't have any definitive ideas of how to handle that. We have discussed this idea of archiving some pieces and or developing messaging or narratives like plaques to kind of go in accompaniment with those pieces, discussing culturally why this is a problem or the history of that piece. So there have been discussions about that. Definitively, there haven't been any things that we've said like, this is what we're fixing to do, not as a board. So I don't know if Ceci has something, yeah.
Ceci Vasconcelos for the record. Mayor and Council, to add to that, I attended a webinar a few months ago, and it was put on by Indigenous speakers. And at the end of the webinar, I actually asked them that question. And they said, yeah, we're not from New Mexico, so we can't answer it specifically, but they suggested not only the things that Katrina talked about, but also asking the people that live here, what would you do? What do you want to do about this? So I think that was a really good suggestion, and we should probably try that.
Given my experience, given the experience that we have had in trying to change a derogatory street name, I think that asking someone will undoubtedly say, well, that doesn't offend me, when that's really not the point. The point is that it is derogatory and offensive to a group of people, and we shouldn't be platforming them, right? Giving them a space. And so I understand you're doing so many things, and it's incredible, and I want to uplift that. This bus stop, I love that. And I am just curious about how we sort of roll back problematic pieces of art that currently exist in our community. So I appreciate the conversation. I hope you continue having it. And if you ever have ideas and a proposal that you want to bring to council, please, please let us know. Please, any of the council or the mayor know that you're ready to have that conversation. I think it's an important conversation, and we should definitely be having it. Absolutely, as a community, for sure. Sometimes I don't think it's the argument shouldn't be whether it's offensive or not. The argument is whether we should have an offensive thing or not, right? So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Councilor Graham, and then Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. This presentation and this board speaks directly to my heart because my kitchen doubles as my husband's ceramic studio, or usually it feels like my husband's ceramic studio doubles as my kitchen. So I feel like I really groove with this one. I appreciated the portion of your presentation focusing on enabling and empowering artists to continue with art as a career, and I'll absolutely connect you. I know of some smaller scale entrepreneurial initiatives going on at NMSU, specifically for fine artists and creatives. I think we've been trying to look a lot harder at that, so I'll definitely connect you with some people with whom I'm working, from the workshop level straight on up to some bigger, hopefully some creative art specific accelerators. So I'll definitely be in contact with you about that, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Caitlin and Ceci, for all you do, and Melanie and Greg, and who's missing? Oh, well, Tina's no longer a member, but it feels like she's still a member. But Dr. Amador, is he the 5th member? And Chantel. But I just, I said this to you at our last meeting, that I think Greg was already gone when I said this, but because he had another commitment, Mr. Ocupado. That it's really in the, I guess, 4 years that I've been the liaison, it's really the best. I think I've gone through 3 quality of life people. And Ceci, you're the best. And, but the commitment that comes from there and the thoughtfulness that comes out of in every respect. And everybody on that board is so talented and so focused and so, what's the word, aware, so aware of sensitivities and issues that, Dios mío. But seriously, I just want to thank you for that. And I just want the people, you know, people in the city, anybody who's listening to this right now, that you all have long, long meetings. I mean, your meetings go like 2.5 hours, right? Mm-hmm. That's why Greg has to leave for dinner every time that before the meeting adjourns. But it's because you really, really look at everything, you weigh everything, and I'm really glad that community people have attended, and especially Diego, who comes in, and of course he'll be doing that project. And then Dan Rubin came in from, she identified herself as being associated with KTEL, but it was really Nan's idea about having the QR codes on that, you know, the public art. But yeah, thank you, and I'm glad that the university is in on this. And we're very fortunate also to have Rebecca Slaughter and Carol Bray. I think there's going to be a real shift, a focus on this city art board, on this community meeting board. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else? Okay, so...
before I go, Ceci Vasconcelos for the record, Mayor and Council. You may have noticed some little rubber duck squishies in front of you. I invite you to go to our website and sign up for the Rubber Ducks blog, which is the Las Cruces Public Art Program blog. And yes, that's it. Thank you.
I was just going to say thank you for the presentation, and I have to tell you that sometimes when I travel throughout southern New Mexico, the only city other than Las Cruces that really has a lot of nice public art is Artesia. You know, if you figure it's not a huge city, well, okay, I guess if you call the Martians art in Roswell, but I'm talking about, it really looks really nice, and I'm really proud of all the hard work that many of you have done on this committee and have really expanded my eyes to see how important public art is. So I just want to tell you thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so if there's nothing further, I think that's it. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second. So moved by Flores.
Motion made by Councilor Flores, second by Councilor Abeyta. Christine?
This is on the motion to adjourn the work session. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, we're adjourned. It's 3:10 p.m. Thanks. Okay, this is the agenda setting meeting for our July 3rd, 2023 City Council meeting. Number 1, non-consent.
1 non-consent.
2, consent.
2 consent.
3, non-consent.
3 non-consent.
4, consent.
4 consent.
5, non-consent.
5 non-consent.
6, non-consent.
6 non-consent.
7, non-consent.
7 non-consent.
8, non-consent.
8 non-consent.
9, consent.
9 consent.
10, non-consent.
10 non-consent.